Okay, so a couple of things when it comes to using the microscope, and you want to make sure that you pass this along to your students, that you, as you're carting the microscope from one place to another, you definitely want to be holding it with two hands. A lot of kids want to hold it with one hand, want to hold down here, want to swing it. These things are very sensitive, so we got to be very careful, obviously. This is one thing just to consider when you're doing this lab with your kids. There are three, on these microscopes we're using, these are compound microscopes. There are three objective lenses on here. You've got a low power, which is the short. You've got a medium power, and you've got a high power. All right? And then one thing to consider, because I know the experience when it comes to microscopes in here is varied, but when you're explaining to your students how to use a microscope, the field of vision on a low power objective is very large, okay? But as you go into smaller and smaller, I should say higher and higher magnifications, that field of vision is going to decrease. So something you may see in low power, all of a sudden you go to medium power for a closer look, and it's gone. So you always tell students that you want to try to put that, whatever you're looking at, put it in the center of your vision so that when you do go to that higher power and that field of vision goes down, that you're able to still see it. And obviously high power, your field of vision will be very small. You're looking at very, very tiny, minute organisms or substances. And so the one thing to consider there too is that you don't want to, because kids will turn on high power and then start using that main course adjustment.
Yeah, never touch that course adjustment after yellow.
On high power, yeah, because you could crack your slide. And some of these prepared slides, if you've ever seen a prepared slide, a piece of liver tissue or brain tissue or whatever you're looking at, those can be expensive, so you don't want to do that. So when you go down to high power, you can see I can bring this all the way up here, and then not only will you crack your slide, but you can do damage to the objective lens itself. So that's something very, very important to consider, and make sure that you definitely explain to your kids. One other thing, simply as far as figuring out magnification, on these microscopes you'll notice that the larger bold numbers, we have a 4, we have a 10, and we have a 40. All right, so the way you calculate magnification is if on the low power, the 4 is multiplied times the eyepiece here, which is 10. So 4 times 10, that would give you a 40 magnification. Whereas the 10 on the medium power is a 10, so 10 times 10 on your field of vision, this would be 100 when it comes to magnification, 100 times whatever you're looking at. And then the high power says 40, so 40 times 10, again, you get the idea of 400 times magnification, okay? All right, anybody have any questions about, or any comments? You guys are science teachers. Is there anything that I missed when it comes to considering how to use a microscope or maybe how to stay safe? Okay, all right. Now, as far as being in the field, there are obviously things to consider when you have kids that maybe have allergies, especially to maybe bee stings. We usually, children, older children, maybe older children are able to keep or to be aware of keeping their EpiPen with them. They want to have it on their person at all times because that is something that, if we're out in the field, it could be, it could take us a while to get back to where we need to be to get them to, if we needed to take them to, an ambulance or get them to the hospital, but hopefully that's never the case. But it's just something to keep in mind of knowing the kids, aware of the kids' allergies before you take them out in the field. Anything else, Ms. Capola?
I think that
Comes
pretty
to the
much
field,
covers
being in
it.
the field.
Yeah, the school field trip form, that'll be enough consent for the kids to go out to the nature center, and then, obviously if there's something serious, like a snake bite, then we call Officer Spires and she zooms in, them where they need to go. Because we call them on the way, and they mix up the antivenom. They don't have it like pre-mixed, they do it like when you call them. Yeah, and it just, safety in numbers, like kids never need to be anywhere by themselves, like at least groups of 15, and usually we say like, okay, this barrier, you can choose a landmark, like between this road and, you know, these white flags, like y'all can roam, but like stay in between here. Because we would already walk around and make sure it's not full of ticks and briars and whatnot. So.
Okay, good. One other thing, so the overall goal, of course here, I think I briefly mentioned it in the very beginning, but you know, what you guys are doing here, this would be, you know, this would probably be a good exercise for high school, maybe some middle school activity, even, you know, younger kids could use the microscope and see some things, and then they could, I mean, they're perfect people of sketching, and just maybe not as high a level as you would expect maybe a middle or high schooler to be able to do, but what we want you guys to do and to think about here is how you will level this to your kids, okay? Whether you're AP Environmental or your third grade science, which we have the whole spectrum here, the old span, obviously those lessons are going to look a little different. So, you know, we wanted you guys to be able to get a good look at what, you know, all of the different organisms and things you can see in pond water. And as excited as you guys got when we put this up on the screen here, this is what, you know, this is the kind of excitement kids would feel too, right? So to realize that all exists. And so you want to look at your standards, which I've, you know, given you a copy of, and you want to try to apply, you know, what you've learned here, and then maybe try to incorporate that into your lesson in the classroom. And we'll look at, if you know, need to get a couple more microscopes, we'll work at getting those microscopes to you so that your kids can use them when you do the lesson. And we want to try to get a lesson in before school ends. We want to try to see if we can you know, get your kids to do this lesson, and I would like to come in and video just what I'm doing here, take pictures, okay? Actually looking at pond water, okay?
We're kind of running out of time, but the dissecting scopes with just a little petri dish of water and then a probe to move stuff around for younger kids is a lot more manageable. So that would be.
Yes.
And we usually don't like collect a ton of data. It's just like which ones, write down which ones you saw, like rough stuff like this. You're not expecting them to have like a hard data set and a graph from this. It's supposed to just be like, oh my gosh, that's in the water.
So the next time we get together is March 12th, right? Saturday, March 12th, and we'll do a soil analysis. Like I said, Mr. David Young from the high school will be leading that session, and he'll be talking to you about the different applications of looking at soil and the types of things we can find in soil on March 12th. So again, we'll be doing the same thing. And then on April 16th, Dr. Graham, our math coordinator, will lead a sort of how to incorporate this and how to do some data analysis with, you know, you guys took counts of the different organisms that you found today in the pond, and so, you know, she's going to help take some of the data we pick up from the water, some of the data we pick up from soil, and then, you know, sort of she's going to show you how you can use that, and then of course at a third grade level she can show you how to use it there. Of course, and then AP Environmental, she can help you because she can do the whole span. So she'll be a wonderful resource for using that. Does anybody have any other questions? All right. You're welcome to hang out if you're, you know, having fun. Keep on you know, taking a look at what you have there. But I thank you guys for being here. Thank you.
Yeah, did you guys think this is an overwhelming amount of cookies to put in front of you?